I want to get close. But not too close. Hey, Jules. We weren't expecting it, but it's snowing. It's no big deal. I'm about, 500 yards from the goal, one shot. I'm gonna make it in, while also holding a kid. Actually, I'm gonna put you down really quick, okay? Yes! Today is Thanksgiving, and I'm curious if you and your family have any Thanksgiving traditions that you would like to share about in the comments below. Justice just said, let's go do something crazy, so we're gonna do something crazy. At least that's crazy for us. Welcome to day 223, and we are finishing the book of Jeremiah. Chapters 49 through 52. While it seems about an average amount of what we usually read in the vlog, these chapters are long, like super long. Like in my Bible here that I have, it's a total of 5.5 of these pages of reading for today. I apologize about the long reading, but hey, we're done with the book of Jeremiah today. I think I'm going to stand for this one. As the book of Jeremiah wraps up, he is proclaiming these final proclamations of judgments upon particular nations and people group, and then he wraps up the book with this 104 verse long proclamation against Babylon. But these are the nations and the people groups that God told Jeremiah to prophesy against concerning judgment that was coming upon them. The first is the people of Ammon, who resided in Jordan, in particular right east of the Dead Sea and the Jordan River. Then he brings judgment upon Edom, and Edom we know are descendants of Esau, and they reside in the southeast portion of the land. Then judgment against Damascus, and Damascus is very clear where this is, and this is still where today modern day Damascus resides. Kedar and Hover are a little bit more challenging to find, but they are presumed to be like North Jordan, like just due east, a little southeast of Damascus in the desert region. And Elam is actually considered ancient Iran. So this, whatever we would see as modern day Iran would be where Edom would be discussed or mentioned in terms of the judgment proclaimed against them. And like I said, there's 104 verses starting in chapter 50 and going all the way towards the end of chapter 51 of Jeremiah, where it's just proclamation against Babylon themselves. Then at the very end of chapter 51, God tells Jeremiah to tell the guy who is going to the exiles that he's writing all these words down in this book, that when they get to Babylon to speak all the words, to read all the words in the book, and then to tie a stone to the book and to toss it into the river Euphrates. And the picture was, it wasn't to hide these words, but it was actually a depiction to show of what God was going to do to Babylon, that he was going to sink her, destroy her in such a way that there's no way that she could come back, essentially, in her ancient form. In chapter 52 is essentially the same as the end of 2 Kings and the end of 2 Chronicles, where it details the final days of the kingdom of Judah, the temple being destroyed, and the exiles going into exile. But as I was reading today, what caught my attention, well, it didn't really catch my attention as much as I kept thinking about it as I was reading about all this destruction that was coming against Babylon, was Babylon was God's instrument in bringing about judgment and wrath upon, primarily his people, Judah, but really most of the known world at that time. And yet, in spite of them being his instrument, he's, 104 verses of destruction and wrath and pouring out his judgment. And it made me think of, like Romans 8:28, where it says that God, works all things together for good for those who love him, are called according to his purpose. And I think that when we think about that good, like sometimes God can use things that are bad for his good, but the fact that he uses bad things for his good, I don't think necessarily means that he approves of that bad or that evil. I think that's kind of the case here with Babylon. Like, God is using Babylon for his specific purpose and goal, and initially it doesn't seem good, but it will eventually bring about good, as we'll read about in a few weeks when the people of Judah eventually get to go back to Jerusalem. But I think that we have to be careful that simply because God uses something or someone doesn't necessarily mean that it's an automatic approval of that thing or that people. Like, God wanted the Babylonians to follow him, to turn to him, and the fact that even though they were being used by God, they didn't turn to God themselves, they got judgment to come upon them as well. Well done. We are done with Jeremiah. And it's going to keep getting depressing over the next couple days. We're going to be in the book of Lamentations, so we'll see you tomorrow in the book of Lamentations.